All right, if we've got 5 over x minus 1 times x minus 1 over 25 times x minus 2. And we want to multiply, and when we multiply, we also want to simplify. So it's just like multiplying fractions. Okay, multiplying fractions that just have numbers in them, you multiply straight across the top and you multiply straight across the bottom, but we don't actually want to multiply it out. We want to leave things in factored form as much as possible because we're going to end up simplifying. So why multiply it out if we're going to turn around and have to factor to simplify? So pretty much what you can do here is you can just say, well, if I'm multiplying, this is really just one big fraction, okay? And put any linear factors in parentheses. Okay, if it shows up in the top and in the bottom, then you can cancel it. So we can cancel the x minus 1, and we can simplify the 5 over 25. So if we do that, 5 over 25 is 1/5. So we end up with 1 over 5 times x minus 2. I prefer to leave it in factored form, but sometimes they may multiply it out on the answer key, so just be aware that those are equivalent to each other. Okay, just be aware that those are equivalent to each other. But I prefer if you leave it in factored form. Factored form is usually most useful to us. Okay? All right, let's look at B here. We have r over r minus 1 times r minus 1 over r squared. Now, please do not revert back and try and cross out those r's at the very beginning of the problem. Okay, we have to cancel entire factors. So we can cancel the r minus 1 that's in the numerator and in the denominator. And I'm going to take just an intermediate step here and just put r over r squared. Okay, and r over r squared, what are the rules when we divide with exponents? We subtract. Okay, so that leaves us with 1 over r in the denominator. Okay, you subtract and you put them where it was bigger. So 2 minus 1 is 1. It was bigger in the denominator. So it's 1 over r. All right, so those were pretty boring. Let's do one where we actually have to do some factoring. Okay, give you a second to write that down, and then we'll jump into it. 2x squared plus x minus 6 over x squared plus 4x minus 5 times x cubed minus 3x squared plus 2x over 4x squared minus 6x. Here is where it's so important that you factor everything fully and accurately. Okay, so let's start with that first numerator. We would love it if there's a GCF, but there is not. So it's 2x times x, factors of 6, 3, and 2. And if we put the 3 first and the 2 second, and we've got plus 2 and minus 3, because the outside's going to give us 4x and the inside gives us 3x, so 4 minus 3 is 1. Let's go ahead and do the denominator. That one's a little bit easier. X plus 5 times x minus 1. Be careful with those. Those tend to trip people up a lot, and it'll throw off your answers. Okay, the second numerator. We've got to start with a GCF of x. So just for the sake of room here, I'm going to do that part just above the problem. And then I'm going to factor the trinomial down here. So x minus 2 times x minus 1. I'm going to do the same thing with the denominator. Take out the GCF of 2x. Well, actually, the GCF's all we have, so I can do that down here. GCF of 2x leaves us with 2x minus 3. Everybody good with the factor? All right, so let's cancel what we see in the numerator and in the denominator. 2x minus 3, top and bottom. X minus 1, top and bottom. We've got an x by itself on the top and on the bottom. So what do we have left? We've got x plus 2 times x minus 2 over, we put that GCF of 2, go ahead and move that to the front, times x plus 5. And that is it. Okay. Let's do one more here. X squared plus 2x minus 15 over x plus 2 times 1 over x squared plus 7x plus 10. So first numerator, x plus 5 times x minus 3. First denominator, x plus 2. It's a linear factor. Can't do anything with it. Just put it in a set of parentheses. X squared plus 7x plus 10 is x plus 5 times x plus 2. Okay, so only one thing is going to cancel. We got x plus 5 in the top and in the bottom. Yes, we have two x plus 2's, but they're both in the denominator, so we can't cancel those. What we can do is we can write it like this, x plus 2 squared. You don't want to have to write so much, but you can't cancel them. Okay? All right, so pretty straightforward.